Welcome back. Best-selling Vermont author Thea Lewis has a new book out called True Crime Stories of Burlington, Vermont. And she joins us now to tell us more about that book. Thea, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about the book. What kinds of stories would people find in there?
People are going to find stories of true crime in the city of Burlington from the mid-1800s to the earlier part of the 2010s. So a real mixed bag of grisly stories and a lot of more modern pieces that people will remember.
And so what was it like then putting the project together? How did you go about doing this?
Oh, I was very lucky in that I've grown up in the city of Burlington and know lots of people who are not only connected to some of the crimes, but actually have known a couple of the killers involved personally. So the research was felt a little peculiar for me to do. The way I do the research, other than my contacts, is probably the standard way. I Google a lot. I make use of old newspapers and special collections at the University of Vermont.
And so talk a little bit more about that then. You mentioned you're a Burlington native, close to some of these cases. Was it a little bit difficult to explore some of these things that you had a little bit of background about? Did it bring up any, unpleasant memories?
It did bring up some memories. Some of them unpleasant, but I have to say that a lot of them just pretty sad. In the case of the chapter called With a Baseball Bat, the story is about a woman I met when she was a teenager. Her name was Ellen Ducharme, and she had a pretty sad life tale to begin with. She became an habitual offender. She eventually got mixed up in the drug scene in Burlington, and it came to a very, very bad end. So looking over some of the different pieces of her past and where her past and mine connected, it made me wonder, is there a way I could have assisted her? Is there a way somebody we had in common could have? And in the end, I mean, the things that happened to her, we can't take away, but I will be thinking about her story long after this event that I'm having at Phoenix Books this week.
And so talk about some of the other stories in there. What other ones might people recognize if they've been living in the Burlington area?
The people are definitely, readers will recognize the story of the couriers who lived in Essex, Vermont, and became the unfortunate victims of the serial killer Israel Keyes. There's also a story about a store downtown, a convenience store with an unfortunate nickname, and I do tell in that chapter how it got its nickname, and they will remember the name of Samuel Wright Jr., the perpetrator of the crime that occurred there.
And with some of these stories, how did you thread the needle between, telling the story and, engaging people in it, but also not being too sensationalistic, for instance?
Yeah, I look at it through the lens of history. And basically, I know that people are going to want, I know from my haunted books that people love the gossipy parts of things. When I write my haunted books, I always look into the lives of the people I'm talking about, people whose names I see on headstones, and try to figure out what was the interesting backstory with them. And it's no different with true crime stories of Burlington, Vermont. But I do want to draw a line there. We are talking, in the case of Ellen Ducharme, in the case of so many of these stories, about real human beings with real foibles and real obstacles that they needed to butt up against in order to live their lives.
And where can people get a copy?
People can get a copy of the book at Phoenix Books, either location. There are other favorite independent bookstores. They're available at Barnes & Noble and available online.
And there's an event coming up this week that you have. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. Phoenix Books is hosting an event for me. People can register in advance at phoenixbooks.biz. It's happening at 7 p.m. Tonight, Monday night. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's always great to meet people who read my books and sign copies for them and find out, amazingly, how reading my books has affected them.
And we will have more information on our website with the story as well. Thea Lewis, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.